So with our CTE program here, we have the same CTE programs at some other schools. So know that there's kids who leave our school who go to take the same program at another school. And because of that, our school district loses $1.5 million every single year, sending kids to other schools. So like, I'm just wondering like why? Because if we had the same exact program, and me as a kid in Situate, if we're paying a lot of money to send kids to other schools, it takes away a lot of money from like everyone else in the school.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and it's a really important question, and I've been very involved in creating those conditions, and I really believe as a leader, if you can't explain something, you shouldn't be doing it. So let me take a shot at explaining it. The first way I would say is, so you're really talking about competition, for example, between Situate and Pontiac, and what you're saying is Pontiac offers some very similar things to what Situate is offering, so does it really make sense that a student could go from Situate to Pontiac when they could have done it in Situate, and by the way, they're taking their money with them? Is that a good idea? So the first thing I would say is 5 years ago, Situate didn't offer what Pontiac offers, and one of the major reasons why Situate now offers what Pontiac offers is because kids were able to vote with their feet for a few years and go. So the fact that people could go to Pontiac actually created the conditions for Situate to offer things that they weren't offering before. Like you said, when you started high school 4 years ago, it was a different high school than it is now. And at least part of that difference is because of your principal, but at least part of that difference is because students were voting with their feet. The second thing is, and this is much more complicated, and I don't pretend that we've got the right answer, but even if you have two programs that look like they're the same programs, are they really the same programs? Two programs in biomedical engineering, they look the same on paper, but are they really the same programs? Do they have the same energy behind them? Do they have the same talent behind them? Do they have the same work-based learning opportunities behind them? So sometimes what we see in education is we say that everything's the same, but it's really not the same. So then the question becomes, how would we help people understand whether one program is better than the other program? Should someone like me, a bureaucrat on Westminster Street in Providence, decide that one program is better than the other, or should the students and their families decide whether one program is better than the other? And I don't pretend to say that we've got the right answer, but right now we're in the spot where students and their families decide which the better program is, not the bureaucrat in Providence. And then people can still vote with their feet, even though the same programs might exist in the same place. Now, that might not be a long-term solution, but that's where we are right now.
So do you know the differences? Like, I'm not going to have you explain them, but personally, do you know the differences between what makes one program better than the other, and how come they all aren't the best?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, if you one way to think about it is every school in the state has an English language arts program, right? But they're far from the same, and we have dramatic differences. The major way that we're trying to think about of quality of career education programs is, so we approve the programs based on the curriculum, what's on the paper, the outline, the curriculum, all that. But one of the ways we're trying to evaluate the quality of them is what the students do afterward. Not just what you do in the program. That's the curriculum. That's what's in the paper. That's in the manual, so to speak. But where do you go afterward? Do you go to college or not? And I'm not saying college is better than not, but do you go to college? If you go to college, you go to a 2-year college or 4-year college. Do you go directly into the workforce? And if you go into the workforce, do you go into a workforce in a high-wage, high-growth sector, or do you go into the workforce in a non-high-wage, high-growth sector? And then what's the retention? If you go to college, do you complete college? Because lots of people go to college that don't finish college, and there's a difference. So if we see, for example, 2 career education programs that look the same on paper, but there's dramatically more students in one program going into high wage, high salary, high wage, high growth means the economy's growing. They go into high wage, high growth jobs. and/or they actually complete college, then those two programs are actually very different, even though they might look the same on paper. So we're in the very beginnings, and Situate is going to teach us about what that quality process looks like. We're at the very beginnings of that. But your question is the right question. Can we afford to have, it's called, you know the word redundancy? Can we afford to have redundancy? I would ask the question, can we afford not to have redundancy? And I don't know the answer, but I think those two questions are the questions we have to ask. Does that make sense, or am I just a bureaucrat who's just saying a lot of words? Someone repeat, like someone give your take on what I just said about the idea of competition, redundancy, quality. Yeah.
So to try and like summarize in my head, but what I took from that was that the most important thing with the fact that people can't leave is it pretty much forces us to kind of compete. Makes us really step up our game. Like we have in the past years, we saw students starting to leave, so we had to kind of catch up so that less students would leave, which allows us to kind of be more efficient in what we're doing here.
It's a great way to put it, because in my view, a great school isn't one that a kid can't leave. A great school is a one where a kid could leave but chooses not to. That's when you know you have a great school. The gate is wide open and they can leave, but they choose not to. That is so much more powerful than the gate is closed and you can't possibly leave. Now, I don't know whether we're going to be able to do that forever. Maybe we do that during a transition period as high schools reorganize and then we go back to the old model for a while. I don't know, but that's where we are right now.